Hi guys, welcome to the channel. I'm a Jacobian dev, and in this video, I'll be going through how to create a plugin which copies legend views from one linked document into another. I'll be using the MVVM pattern discussed in the previous video. To get started, I'll navigate to Visual Studio, where I've got a Jacobian Revit plugin project set up. In the Tools folder, I'll add a new folder named Revit Link Legends Copy. I'll then add the Model folder, the View folder, and lastly, I'll add the View Model folder. I'll start by adding the view. I'll add a new WPF window named Revit Link Legends Copy View. I'll change the width to 300 and the height to 500. To create a custom top bar, I'll set the window style property to none. I'll then set the allows transparency property to true, and lastly, I'll set the background to transparent. Next, I'll remove the existing grid and add a border. I'll set the background to white. I'll then set the border brush to black. I'll set the border thickness to 1. And lastly, I'll set the corner radius equal to 6. Next, I'll add a grid. I'll then add the grid row definitions. I'll set the top bar height equal to 30. I'll then set the rest of the grid to occupy the rest of the space available. Next, I need to add the custom top bar. I'll start by adding a border. I'll then remove the existing title. I'll set the grid row property in the border equal to 0. I'll then set the background to a dark color and the top left and right corner radius properties equal to 6. And lastly, I'll set the mouse down property equal to the border mouse down event function. Next, I'll add a grid. I'll then add a text block. I'll set the text property equal to copy legends from link. I'll set the foreground to white, the vertical alignment to center, and the left margin equal to 10. I'll also add a close button. I'll set the content property equal to X. I'll then set the width and the height equal to 30. I'll set the horizontal alignment to right and the vertical alignment to center. I'll then set the right margin equal to 5. And I'll add the click button event handler. Next, I'll make the background transparent and the foreground white. I'll also set the border thickness equal to 0. Next, I'll add the grid for the main content. I'll set the grid row property equal to 1 and the margin equal to 15. I'll then add the grid row definitions. Next, I'll add a text block. I'll set the text property equal to link document. I'll then set the font weight to semi-bold, the bottom margin to 4, and the font size equal to 13. I'll then set the grid row property equal to 0. Next, I'll add a combo box and set the grid row property equal to 1. I'll set the item source to bind to linked documents. And the selected item to bind to the selected linked document. I'll then set the display member path equal to name and the bottom margin equal to 10. Next, I'll add another text block and set the text property equal to legends. I'll set the font weight to semi-bold, the bottom margin to 4, and the font size equal to 13. I'll then set the grid row property equal to 3. Next, I'll add a checkbox and set the grid row property equal to 4. I'll set the content property equal to select all, and the bottom margin equal to 8. I'll set the isCheck property to bind to our all legends selected. And I'll set the binding mode to two-way so that the bound property in the view model is automatically updated. Next, I'll add a list box. I'll set the grid row property equal to 5. I'll then set the item source to bind to legends. I'll then set the selection mode to extended to allow multi-selection. I'll set the border thickness to 0.5 and the vertical scroll bar visibility to auto for the vertical scroll bar to appear if the contents are longer than the visible area. Next, I need to add a checkbox for the legend items. I'll firstly create a data template. I'll then create a stack panel. I'll set the orientation to horizontal and the left and top margins to 4 and 2. I'll then add a checkbox in the stack panel and set content to bind to the name property. I'll set isChecked to bind to the isSelected property and set the binding mode to two-way. Lastly, I'll add a button to copy the legends. I'll set the grid row property equal to 6. I'll set the content to copy selected legends. I'll then bind the command to the copy legends command. I'll then set the height equal to 40 and the horizontal alignment to stretch. And lastly, I'll set the top margin equal to 10. Next, I'll add the model. I'll add a new file named Revit Link Legends Copy Model. I'll make this a public class. Next, I'll declare a new UI application variable named UI app. I'll then declare the model's constructor, passing a UI application variable named UI app as a parameter. I'll then set the UI app variable equal to the UI app we passed in the constructor. Next, in the same namespace, I'll add a combo document item class, which acts as a container for working with Revit documents more conveniently. I'll declare name property. I'll then declare the document property, which will be the Revit API document object. Next, I'll declare a legend item partial class, which inherits from observable object, which provides change notification. I'll declare a name property to store the display name of the legend. Next, I'll add a view property, which is the actual Revit object representing the legend. I'll declare a new private bool named isSelected to store the internal selection state. I'll then declare a new action named onSelectionChanged. Next, I'll add the onIsSelectionChanged method, which will be called every time isSelected changes. I'll then save and reopen the class to get rid of the error. Next, I'll declare a new function to get all the linked documents named getDocuments. This will return a list of combo document items. Inside this method, I'll start by declaring a current doc variable, which gets the document from the Reactive UI document. I'll declare a new linked docs variable, which is a list of combo document items. I'll set the default to none for the combo box item if there are no documents in the list. Next, I'll get all the Revit link type elements from the current document by declaring a link types variable that calls the filtered element collector, passing the current doc as a parameter. The collector will be of category Revit links. I'll then apply a class filter for Revit link types and cast the results to Revit link type. Next, I'll loop through the link types. I'll then check if the link is loaded. Next, I'll get the corresponding instance for this type by declaring a new filtered element collector, passing the current doc as a parameter. I'll apply an element class filter of type Revit link instance and cast the elements to Revit link instance. I'll then get the corresponding instance for this type by checking if the link type IDs are equal. If the link instance isn't null, I'll get the link document from the linked instance. And if the link doc is not null, I'll add a new combo document item with the name set to the link type name and the document equal to the link document. Lastly, I'll return all the linked documents. Next, I'll declare a new function to get all the legends from the linked document. I'll pass the link document as a parameter. In the function, I'll declare a new legends list of type legend item. I'll declare a new views variable that gets all the legend views by declaring a new filtered element collector, passing the linked doc as a parameter. I'll then apply an element category filter to get all the views which are not element types. I'll then cast the elements to Revit views. And lastly, I'll get all the views of type legend, which are not templates. I'll then add new legend items from the views to the legends list. And lastly, I'll then return the legends. Next, I'll add the view model. I'll add a new file named Revit Link Legends Copy VM. I'll make the class public and partial. This class inherits from observable object, which comes from the Community Toolkit MVVM library. I'll start by storing a reference to the model using a private read-only field model. I'll then add a private flag, suppress checkbox update, which will be used when bulk selecting legends and we don't want each checkbox toggle to trigger extra UI updates. Next, I'll define a few properties using observable property. This attribute automatically generates backing fields and raises change notifications for UI binding. I'll declare a private observable collection of type combo document item named linked documents. These will be all the linked Revit documents. I'll then declare a private combo document item selected linked document property for the current document selection from the dropdown. Next, I'll add another private observable collection. Lastly, I'll declare a private bool named are all legends selected. This is bound to the select all checkbox. I'll then define the constructor, passing the model as a parameter. I'll then store the model. Next, I'll initialize a new empty observable collection list for the legend items. I'll then set linked documents equal to a new observable collection list for the combo document items, passing the getDocuments function declared in the model as a parameter. Lastly, I'll set the selected linked document equal to the first available item in the list, which will default to the none placeholder if no links were found. I'll then save and reopen the class to get rid of the errors. Next, I'll declare a new relay command function called copyLegends. Relay command turns regular methods into fully functional iCommand implementations without writing extra boilerplate code. The command copyLegends will be exposed as a copyLegends command, which we bound in the button in the view. In the command, I'll start by first checking if a linked document is selected. If the user hasn't selected anything or the drop-down is still set to none, I'll show a message and return. Next, I'll declare a source document variable by getting the selected linked document. I'll then declare a target document variable by calling the active UI document in the model. Next, I'll declare a new selected legends variable that gets all the selected legend views by filtering the legends list for items where isSelected is true. If no legend is selected, I'll display a message. No legends selected, and return. Next, I'll declare a try-catch block. I'll display a message, error copying legends in the exception. I'll then declare an options variable, which calls the copy-paste options method. I'll set up the copy-paste options by including a custom duplicate type names handler in case element types already exist in the target document. This is a helper class declared in my utilities. Next, I'll declare a count variable and set it equal to 0. This will help keep count of how many legends were copied. I'll then declare a new transaction variable by calling a new transaction, passing the target document and copy legends as parameters. I'll then start the transaction. Next, I'll loop through all the selected legends. I'll then declare a legend exists bool variable, which creates a new filtered element collector, passing the target doc as a parameter. I'll apply an element class filter of type view, and cast all the elements to view. I'll then get the first view of type legend. If no existing legend is found, I'll continue. I'll then declare copied IDs variable that calls element transform utils copy elements, which performs the actual copy operation. I'll pass the source document as the first parameter, an array of legend view element IDs as the second, the target document as the third, the transform identity since I don't want to reposition the elements, and lastly, the copy-paste options. Next, I'll increment the count variable to track how many legends were successfully copied. I'll then commit the transaction. Once all the selected legends are copied, I'll display a message to the user showing how many legends were copied. I'll save and reopen the class. Next, I'll add reactive logic to respond whenever the user selects a different linked document from the dropdown. I'll declare a partial method named onSelectedLinkedDocumentChanged, which is automatically triggered whenever the selected linked document property changes, thanks to the observable property source generator. Inside this method, I'll first check if the selected items document is not null. If it isn't, I'll declare a legend items variable that gets all legends from the selected linked document. I'll then loop through all the legend items and assign an onSelectedChange callback that points to the update select all checkbox method, which I'll add a bit later. This ensures that any time the selection state of a legend changes, the select all checkbox can stay in sync automatically. I'll then update the legends property with the new collection, wrapped in an observable collection so the UI updates accordingly. If no document is selected, I'll reset legends to an empty collection. And lastly, I'll call update select all checkbox to immediately reflect the current selection state. Next, I'll define another partial method called update select all checkbox, which is called whenever a legend's is selected state changes. Inside the method, if suppress checkbox updates is true, I'll return immediately. And if legends is null, I'll set the are all legends selected property to false and return. If legends is not null, I'll set the are all legends selected property equal to all the selected legends. I'll then add the on are all legends selected change method. This method will ensure that when the user clicks the select all checkbox in the UI, all individual legends toggle their selection states accordingly. I'll first check if legends is null and return if it is. I'll then set the suppress checkbox update flag to true. This prevents a feedback loop when setting each individual legends is selected property. Next, I'll loop through each legend and set the is selected state to match the new checkbox value. And lastly, I'll set the suppress checkbox update flag back to false. Next, in the view XAML CS file, I'll add the logic for the top bar so the user can drag and close the window. And lastly, I'll add the command by adding a new file named Revit links legends copy command. I'll make this a public class. I'll add the transaction attribute, which ensures that transactions are explicitly controlled in the code. I'll also add the regeneration attribute. Next, I'll add the iExternal command interface. I'll then implement the interface. In the method, I'll declare a new try-catch block. I'll then return result failed if there are any errors. Next, I'll declare UI app variable from the command data application. I'll then declare the model, passing the UI app as a parameter. Next, I'll declare the view model, passing the model as a parameter. And lastly, I'll declare the view and assigning its data context to the view model. I'll also call the window interop helper to make sure that the WPF window closes if Revit is closed. Next, I'll call the view show dialog to display the WPF window. I'll then return results succeeded. Next, I'll run the project. I'll select Always Load to load the plugin. I'll open a sample project. In the Jacobian Dev tab, I'll launch the Link Legend Copy plugin. I'll select the link document and copy all the legends from the link document. Once that's done, we can see the copied legends in the project browser. That should be it for this video. Please leave any questions in the comments below. Also, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.